I love – hey, you noticed that curveball I threw for all of you who are looking on Facebook Live. You actually get to see the great Aubrey. He normally sitting behind the glass. I just dropped it on. Hey, come on this side of the glass. So you've heard him give commentary from behind the glass from the producer's chair today. He's going to sit in at least one segment with me as a co-host. We got a great show lined up for you. But good morning, Aubrey. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just ready for Saturday. Looking forward to it.
All right. Now we're looking. We're going to see if that scholarship money, mom and daddy's money, and his money is paying off over there at that university. Let's see if he's ready in season and out, James. I didn't give him any prep work. Let me see if some people are just sports fans and you can kind of just bring them in and they can talk sports. I have that feeling that Aubrey's one of those guys that just loves sports, and he's not just over here at the station because it's an internship, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, Martin, we've had a few of them over here this year that are just as you described.
Oh, you tell me about it. Yes. And in my little time here, there's been quite a few that you're like, okay, do you even know how to spell sports? Or radio? So, especially together. But anyway, we got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about college football playoffs. The topic, college football playoff inevitability is expansion and who's in and out. That's going to be part of the conversation. Also, impact players potentially for this game if we get to that topic. I want to talk a little bit about coaching. Yesterday, Barry Sanderson and I were having a conversation as I was leaving out of the studio, and he represented that conversation, and I think he misrepresented my point because he brought my conversation up with him, Aubrey, as he was talking about Alabama fans having a hard time giving Kirby Smart credit. And then he brought up the conversation that I had with him, and I'll explain that in a moment as well. I have zero issue with giving Kirby Smart credit for what he's done. I'm just not going to give him more credit than what he's done.
Exactly. I wouldn't give him more credit for what he deserves to get. I mean, he's done a lot for the program. He's helped Nick Saban out a lot, but we're not going to put him up on the same pedestal with Saban or anything at all.
Well, let's go ahead and just talk about that real quick, since that's kind of a ad hoc conversation that came up as a result of something that was brought up on Inside the Game. Inside the locker room with Wimp and Barry. And what was said as I was leaving, he was talking about Kirby doing a good job, and I think Wimp even said that that he's the second best coach, and I don't disagree with that. I think Kirby Smart's the second best coach, especially when you look at program. It's a lot of people that try to separate coaching from the recruiting, the facilities, the getting administration on board, getting buy-in from the administrative staff. It's the entire program, or as Saban calls it, it's the entire process. And the second best program in the SEC is Georgia, and they're building a perennial contender. Okay, but the question is, has Kirby Smart done anything different than Mark Richt has done? That was my point. And if you want to disagree or call in and talk to us about this and give your thoughts on this, since we got Georgia, Alabama coming up, is Kirby Smart building a contender? Has he built that contender? Has he done or accomplished anything more than what Mark Richt did? If you want to talk about that, you can call the Taco Casa hotline at 205-342-9904. So what I said, Aubrey, was this, is that at this point, everybody gives Kirby Smart all of this credit for building Georgia into this powerhouse. Okay. Couple of observations as a player, not as a fan, not as a player, not as a fan, as just an outsider looking in. No love for Alabama, no love for Georgia. Kirby Smart is coaching in a weaker division.
Absolutely.
There is no Tennessee. There is no Florida Gator who can knock them off.
No.
And that's the world that Mark Richt coached in. Mark Richt coached went when Mark Richt started coaching, the East was the West.
That's
correct,
very
James?
True.
I mean, it would be
absolutely.
Yeah. So the 3 top teams in the conference had to play each other.
The Tennessee, when Mark Richt got into the SEC, was just a few years removed from a national championship. And when Mark Richt arrived in 2001, they were going and looked as if that year they were going to win another national championship with Casey Clausen at quarterback.
Right. So you had the Tennessee, and then Florida was good. Also with Auburn. So the East was the West at that point. And what happened to Kirby Smart? What is Kirby's record when he's played the top SEC school from the West? He's lost. Well, and that was the point I was trying to make, is the difference, Aubrey, is this. Would Mark Richt do the same thing? Would the Mark Richt teams be in the same boat as Kirby Smart's team? Now, they may not look as impressive. Now, I'm going to give him, he's building some recruits.
Yes.
He's getting better facilities. He's getting all of that. But would the result on the field be any different? Mark Richt had to play Nick Saban in the SEC championship game.
I feel overall, Mark Richt, he always kept the Georgia Bulldogs pretty consistent. Always. But I feel like his biggest problem was he can never win the big games.
He would drop one.
He
would drop one.
He would drop one huge game that could set them apart to the next level in the East.
But watch
he
this.
could never do it.
What big game has Kirby Smart won? He won the SEC championship game against Auburn.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with Mark Richt, too, when he was at Georgia. There was always that one game a year, too, that they'd face a team that they'd have more talent against, but they'd always come out sluggish and unprepared and would even drop some of those games.
What year did Mark Richt win his SEC championship in?
2002 and 2005.
And when did he come?
1 year, Bama, 2002 season, Bama actually won the West and was on probation that year, and the other was Les Miles' first year at LSU.
No, I'm saying, what year did Mark Richt come to Georgia?
2001.
2001. So 2001, he took over a program that was what? Not winning and competing.
At all.
Right?
Yes.
So by 2002, he did what?
Took him to an SEC championship.
Okay. And so in his first 3 years, first 2 recruiting classes, he had what? 2 SEC championships, right?
Yeah, with his first, and then the second one that he recruited. Yeah.
Okay. So Kirby Smart in 3 years has done what?
2 SEC championship games
and 1 SEC championship.
Correct. Yep.
And he got to a national championship game, but did he have to go through Nick Saban? See, the deciding factor here for me is whether he has done to pass Mark Richt. You got to dethrone the man. If he had won a national championship, yes, he would have won a national championship. But did he go through the arch enemy on the other side? That's what I was trying to say when I said he hasn't accomplished anything that Mark Richt didn't, because he has not dethroned Saban. Now, the difference I feel is that Kirby is building a contender, a perennial contender, not the Auburn contender where every 4 years you're going to have a really good team because you stink the other 3. But that he's really going to he's building something there. And I believe, without a doubt, if Alabama slips if Auburn continues to do what they're doing and slip, Georgia will dominate the SEC. And let me tell you why. Because they have the best recruiting base.
They really do.
If all of a sudden those Georgia kids stop coming to Alabama and stop coming to Auburn, and they all go to Georgia, Kirby could have a dynasty on his hands.
Exactly. And another thing we have to remember, though, is Kirby is still a fairly young coach. He's young into his career as a head coach. Mark Richt was with Georgia how long? A long time.
Yeah.
And yes, he had inconsistencies at times. Yes, he usually kept Georgia pretty consistent, though. They would drop that one game, but Kirby's still young. Do I think he's going to pass Mark Richt? Yes, of course I do. I think that even maybe later on after Saban retires, he'll still be at Georgia, and that will be the most dominant team in the SEC.
Yes. And C.J. Watson said the issue with Rick, in my opinion, wasn't winning the big game. He won lots of big games. The issue was he dropped the ones he was supposed to win, and that often kept him out of a potential big game. But Mark Richt, had there been no Saban, he would have had at least 3 SEC titles in 12, 13, 14 years of coaching, whatever it was at Georgia. If there was no what was that other guy named that jumped ship? I'm just kidding. Urban Meyer. If there was no Urban Meyer, how many SEC championships does Mark Richt have? Okay, it's all of a sudden you look at the guy lost one SEC championship game to Saban. He was prevented from getting to, I think, at least 2 by Urban Meyer, at least 2. And so I guess what I'm saying is, yes, Kirby looks like he's building what Georgia has, but let's let it get out there a little bit before.
Well, Martin, who do you think was the better recruiter? Was it Mark Richt or Kirby Smart?
There's no question.
Kirby, of course.
That's why I said he's building a perennial contender, where that's what separates the two. But that's yet to see if they're developed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And with Mark Richt, and I'm going to go to Pat. Thanks for your patience, Pat. But before I go to him, I got one question. I want to throw this hanging Chad out there. Would Mark Richt not be the second best coach in the SEC today? I mean, who would? And if anybody calls in here and tell me Jimbo Fisher, I will walk through this microphone and slap you on the jaw. I mean, that guy gets more credit. But anyway, Pat, you're here with the Blitz. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, Martin, I want to get in on this conversation.
You go right ahead.
Number one, what happened to Mark Richt when he faced big, bad Ogeron? What happened to him? He got his butt spanked.
So did Mark.
Puppies, and they sent their butt back to Georgia.
Who did you mean to say Kirby Smart or Rick?
No, I'm talking about Kirby Smart.
You said Rick,
Kirby Smart.
You said Rick. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
But Coach Rick is also, if you look at this recruiting class, Coach Rick also is building Miami back into a power. That Miami is off the chart on this recruiting class. But let's forget about that. Mark Richt was a far, far better man than Kirby Smart ever will be. And Mark Richt didn't try to come over here and steal my defensive back. But hey, I want to beat beat Kirby Smart's butt so bad this weekend. Hey, I ain't interested in the national title. I'm interested in taking and dismantling the Georgia program.
Well,
do you hear me?
I don't know if we'll dismantle it, but I think
I'm so darn mad with Kirby Smart. Hey, and I promise you this, that it's going to be a butt whipping. Hey, I think Coach Saban's going to take it personal. And when they finish this recruiting class, Coach Smart is not going to be building a perennial program. Hey, for the next 4 years, Alabama, and I'm hoping that we get 4 more years out of Coach Saban, but he's loading the wagon that whoever comes to Alabama is still going to beat Coach Smart. Do you understand what I'm saying, Martin Houston? Martin Houston, we're building the finest program.
We've built. We're not building anymore. This is what you call maintaining and growing. The Alabama program is and Pat, I got to get the break. James looking at me funny, but here's the difference. Kirby Smart is what? Kirby Smart is doing an unbelievable job of setting a foundation. But have you ever been driving down the road and saw the lot that's been cleaned off and they laid the cement and then there's pipes coming out, and then you come back 3 months later and it's still the foundation and the pipes are still there, and a structure never ever goes up? That's what we don't know yet. We still don't know. Hold on, Pat. I'm agreeing with you. We still don't know if Kirby Smart can build a program. He's building a program. He's laying a foundation for a program, but can he put up the walls that can sustain a storm? Can he build a wall that can sustain 8 draft picks going in the league year in and year out? It's one thing to do it 1 year. It's another thing to do it 3 years. It's another thing to do it 10 years. But think about this. 12 years later, Nick Saban is doing it, and he just had his biggest departure on defense and a nice departure on offense, and he put together the next year the best offensive team he's ever had. And everybody that dogged this defense need to look at what this defense is doing when they're in the game in the first half and what they do when they get a chance to come out in the second half when a team has success in the first half. And tell me that this isn't one of Nick Saban's top teams and top defenses. So I got to go to break, but go ahead, Pat.
Real quick. Hey, Georgia's entire program over there is Mickey Mouse compared to Tuscaloosa. Their facilities
but you know Mickey did.
Are the pits.
You know that Mickey did become.
They know it. Hey, but Dabo is bringing in that 6'3", 230-pound running back that's going to make a believer out of us. And I don't know why Coach Saban's not after him. It must be grades or something.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Have a blessed day. Bye, Martin.
Bye. All right, that's a little extended edition of the first quarter. And Pat, the only problem is you use Mickey Mouse as the example, and I know the story of Disney. When he went down to Orlando and built Disney, and they said, what is this guy doing building this amusement park in the middle of a swamp? Well, he had all the right pieces in place. So let's hope that Kirby doesn't have a Mickey Mouse. But coming back on the other side, we got Robert who wants to talk about Kirby Smart in the college football playoffs. Robert, you're in with the Blitz, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, man. Mark Richt is what I've always told a friend of mine who was kind of in your camp with Mark Richt. His number one problem was underachieving in a bad division of the SEC East. When you should have been the premier, the SEC, when you should have been the program that was good when the rest of them were bad, you should have been dominating that division.
And let me point out what you're saying. When early on, it was a good division, and he was competitive. And then as it started going down, he didn't seem to keep that edge. Is that what you're referring to? Like early on when he got here, won 2 SEC championships, and took out an LSU team, a Tennessee team, a Florida. That was good. Then when Urban Meyer left and Tennessee was down, that's when he could have ran to the championship game every year. And he didn't. I think Missouri even snuck in on him, didn't it?
Exactly. I mean, you think there's any chance that Missouri sneaks in on Nick Saban? Nick Saban. Forget about Nick Saban. That's legendary. Or even, a really good coach. It's like, come on, man. You should be the premier program in that division, and you're letting Missouri and other teams, or bad Florida teams, win it over you.
Right.
And then when they get to the SEC championship game against whoever the West was bringing in, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. So you let that team that can't even compete against an SEC West team win that division over you because you constantly underachieve where you should be. So no, if Kirby Smart had been the coach all those times, I think Kirby Smart would be doing exactly what he's doing now.
But my point is not what he would do against the bad SEC. See, right now he's in the first few years of his coaching, and the SEC is worse than it was under Rick. SEC East to me is worse than it was under Rick. So
I don't think so.
You don't think that who's better right now than the last 5 years of Rick's tenure?
Oh, I think Florida's better now. Florida now is going to be a threat. And Tennessee, I believe, will be a threat.
Now, but they were not the last 3 years. I don't think this Florida team last year was very good. This year is very good. I think they will be, Robert. But what I'm saying is when Mark Richt came in, you had Tennessee coming off national championship. You had Florida with Urban Meyer. That's what Rick was doing in his first job as a head coach. He came from Florida State to that. Now, the part I agree with you on is down the stretch, what he did made no sense. But what he did in this part of his career, in the early five years or so, he won 2 SEC titles, and that SEC East was the SEC West.
I agree with you on the down the stretch part.
Down the stretch part.
On the beginning.
You think Mark Richt had a – repeat that now?
Yeah, I agree with you in the beginning, Mark, that the SEC East, when Mark Richt first got there, was the SEC West. They were the better conference. And Mark Richt was competitive then.
Right,
but
and that's what I'm saying.
Why are you so mediocre now?
And that's the point that was confusing. But like I said, I think that Kirby Smart is building a better program if he's able to do this, Robert. Here's the question we don't know yet. And this is what Aubrey and I were talking about during the break. Recruiting is the foundation. Okay? Facilities are foundational. And people who don't get that never get to have great programs. Okay? They have great teams every once in a while, but they don't have great programs. But after 12 years, Nick Saban is still recruiting at the same level. Facilities are still improving, and he's the best developer because people can say what they want. If you come here as a 5-star, you got almost a 75% chance you will be a first rounder. Okay, and almost 100% guaranteed if you play all 3 to 4 years here, you will go in the first 3 rounds. So can Kirby do that? Can he put up the walls? Can he put on a roof? Can he put the finishing touches on that? And that's the part I'm not sure of. And my point yesterday, when it made it sound like I didn't want to give him credit, was I was saying he hasn't done anything yet that Mark Richt didn't do either.
Oh, I think if Nick Saban retired tomorrow, the hypothetical.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Nick Saban retires, or if Nick Saban leaves, the team, the program is most likely to be the closest, because no one else be that Nick Saban's Alabama again. We're living in fantasy land right now.
Right, absolutely.
But the closest that anybody, I think, the team will come in the SEC will be Georgia under Kirby Smart.
Without a doubt.
I mean, he's already, But I mean, that's what, when we have said it with Mark Richt. I don't think so. You kept letting Missouri beat you, and it was
but in the beginning of his career, if there was no Nick Saban, he would have at least three SEC titles, and they would have beat the crap out of Notre Dame. Okay, if there was no Nick Saban, and he was playing against any other bumbling coach from the West in 2013, Mark Richt has a national championship because that Georgia team would have destroyed Notre Dame, and we probably won't even be having this conversation. But if you go back to would he beat Spart? I mean, if you remove Urban Meyer and Nick Saban from his early career, he would have probably had a couple national titles then potentially. So,
like I said, the problem with the reason why he got fired was the down the stretch.
Yeah, he just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, he was mediocre.
Yeah, when he should have been great.
You should have owned the East during the time you were mediocre. That's the trouble. You should have owned it, like Clemson, owned the ACC.
Yes.
If you're a good coach, you should be owning it, and he does. That's what you should be. Real quick before I go on the conference, on the playoffs, you saw the rankings. You saw Ohio State below Oklahoma. And there's zero chance Ohio State should make the playoffs if Oklahoma wins. I don't care if Oklahoma wins by 1 point. And Ohio State just decimates, which you should decimate Northwestern.
They're 7-4. What's Northwestern? 7-4, 8-4, 7-5, something like that. But
and it should have been worse. Their record should even be worse than it is. Yeah. So that means Ohio State jumps on if Oklahoma wins, or if Alabama. I mean, I don't even want to utter those words.
But if hypothetical.
Hypothetically, if Alabama lose, then their stitches to be in, regardless of what that fool on Ryan Fowler's show said yesterday. They should be in as well. Yeah. Okay, guys, good talking with you.
I appreciate you, Robert. All right. Hey, what are your thoughts, Robert saying? And I agree with him down the stretch, but I'm comparing their first 5 years.
Look, here's the thing. Like we were talking about during the break, Kirby didn't really have to rebuild anything.
No,
it was already there. Mark Richt already had the program built.
They were winning 10 games a year.
They were winning 10 games a year.
They just couldn't win the key SEC game to get to the championship.
And I believe that's why Mark Richt ultimately left, because Georgia fans were sick and tired of getting all the way there and losing games they shouldn't have been losing.
Yeah.
They were ready for that national championship. They were ready to get there, and they believed that somebody that Saban's been teaching all these years could get him there.
Yeah.
Then he gets all the way to the national championship, Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
And he still still couldn't get to the top because he still had to go through Nick Saban.
Right, and that's the deciding factor that I say until Kirby Smart takes down Nick Saban directly, not gets to an SEC championship or gets to a national championship without going through Saban, he's done nothing that no other coach in this league hasn't done. There's been Missouri looked like they were good, but then they get embarrassed. Auburn thinks because what's his name beats Alabama once that makes them the new champ. No, you got to do it every year in and out, and he's not done it head to head. Kirby Smart wins Saturday. Kirby Smart's not only going to get credit for building a program, he's going to get credit for having a program that's ready to go against Saban. And I already think that's what he's doing. I think he's building a contender.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. If Georgia does beat Bama on Saturday, I don't think Bama's going to be out. I think Bama's going to stay in. So there's going to be that possibility of Kirby having to play Saban 2 times in 1 year. I don't see him beating.
You remember what happened to the last coach that had to do that, right? Les Miles.
Oh, yep.
Where he coaching at?
He's coaching at Kansas. Yeah.
Kansas. All right. All right, Gregor, hold on. We'll get to you on the other side of the break. Coming back on the other side, we'll continue this conversation. Hey, sometimes topics just kind of take over and we just kind of run with it here on the Blitz. The Kirby Smart, Nick Saban showdown, the Dynasty contender or pretender in Georgia. Is he building it? Absolutely. But I've seen him built before. Could he be like you? Are you old enough to remember the .com bust? No. There was companies that came out that looked like they were going to be the next juggernaut, the .com, whatever .com, and 99% of them flopped, but they looked good early. And they looked like they had a foundation, but they didn't have the follow-through. Will Kirby have that? Probably, but we don't know yet. Let's see. We'll talk about that more right here on The Blitz.
Tide 102.9 and 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, Townsend Nissan, your hometown dealer. We have a disabled vehicle on 2059 eastbound before the Skyline exit. We're seeing serious delays. Otherwise, traffic is light with everything else moving well. If you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give us a call. 205-886-8886. I'm Captain Ray.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at softmarkdesign.com.
O'Reilly. When it comes to safety, nothing is more important than your vehicle's brakes. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing or grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best and Brake Best Select at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brakes from O'Reilly Auto Parts.
They can clock this ball right now, meaning ground it, or they can run a hurry-up play. The clock has started.
12 seconds to go. Murray got it, but the clock is running.
That's the one thing he didn't want to do.
Game over. Alabama faces Notre Dame for the national championship in Miami.
Could we have the exact same repeat story? Is it possible that Alabama beats Georgia, Kirby Smart again, and then goes on to face Notre Dame? We'll see. It's possible. It's possible. Is there any chance that if the top 3 wins that one of them slip, slide, or fall? See, and that's one of my other conversations that we didn't get to. You have to come back again so we can talk about it. But here's the reality. Why is Notre Dame a lock? They've not won an SEC title. They've not won a championship title. Why should me playing in a championship game hurt my chances any more than Notre Dame? If I'm the top 3 team after the regular season, and Notre Dame's guaranteed because they don't have to play anybody,
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Who has Notre Dame even played this year?
Right. And so if I lose that game, I'm like you. I think Alabama still may be in, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Gregory, you in with the Blitz? What's on your mind, man?
Roll Tide, Mark. Now, I'd like to have a conversation with you about Mark Richt and Kirby Smart.
The table's yours.
All right. Number one, the stock brand is different. Kirby Smart been up on Nick Saban, I think, 12 years. He learned that pressure. You know what I'm saying? Mark Richt had win 10 games, every year, and had quality players. See what I'm saying? But he couldn't get over the hump.
But here's the thing.
Hold up now.
Hold on.
We talking about the man. We talking about the man that got raised by Nick Saban.
But hold on. But you got to go back. Who raised Mark Richt? Bobby Bowden.
Whoever
Bobby Bowden
put enough gas in it.
Bobby Bowden and Mark Richt did the same thing that Kirby Smart's done in his first 5 years. Guys, I'm telling you, got to stop comparing Mark Richt when he had gotten old and his welcome had worn out. I'm talking about the beginning of Mark Richt's career is not a lot of difference than Kirby Smart's, except for the way that you got to the national championship game was different. And Kirby didn't go. Kirby still hasn't cleared his mountain, which is Nick Saban. Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. I agree with that. But what did Nick Saban say? He said about 4 years ago, he said, Georgia have the best recruiting class,
foundation.
Going against Bama. You have to work harder recruiting at other schools. But it seemed like it's easier at Georgia.
Gregory, I've said this, and Alabama fans will hate me for this. Georgia is not the best job in the SEC. But Nick Saban at Georgia would be the best team in the SEC.
Right.
Because if you put Nick Saban in that recruiting ground with his ability to go everywhere else, I'm not disagreeing with you in the potential, but that's what potential. Kirby has the potential to be a perennial powerhouse and a dynasty, but at this point, he has not cleared the Nick Saban hurdle, which Mark Richt couldn't clear.
Okay, I understand. Now, let's go back to this Saturday.
Okay.
All right. During here, do or die, right? If Georgia don't beat Bama, he don't make it to the playoffs.
Correct.
Huh?
Correct.
Right. Now let's see what did Nick Saban really teach him.
Unless Northwestern upsets Ohio State and Texas upsets Oklahoma, then they got a mess on their hands. UCF is in.
Yeah, but I don't still think 2 losses in the SEC, they'll let Georgia in.
But everybody would have 2 losses except for UCF. So either they would put UCF in or they'd have to pick the best 2-loss team.
Which I hope we play UCF.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah.
But see, my thing is they're going to look at 2 bad teams. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the investment, while I see what Georgia schooling did for Kirby and the pressure that he up under, you see what I'm saying? I'm looking at his background.
Yeah, he's got the pedigree. He has the process. Right. Okay. He has the approach. He has everything.
Everything
to build a powerhouse that will contend with Alabama and Nick Saban. And when Nick Saban steps down, Georgia will, if Alabama slips at all, if Auburn slips at all, Georgia will be the dominant program in the SEC for the foreseeable future. Don't disagree with that. I got to get to Tom. Thanks, Gregory. I think we agree. I'm just trying to point out that Kirby Smart has not done anything that Mark Richt did. He has not beat Nick Saban, and until he does, Nick Saban is still the king. You can have all the shiny toys you want. You can have all the recruits you want, but until you get the medal, baby, it ain't nothing but shiny toys. Okay? And that's what Kirby Smart has. He looks like he's going to be that guy. He has everything in place. He has the coaches, the facility, the administration, the recruiting base, the talent, the recruiting classes. Can he do it year in and year out? Can he beat him this Saturday? And if he beats him this Saturday, can his team recover from that? That's what we don't know. All right, Tom, you're in with the Blitz, man.
Morning, Martin.
Morning.
I will contend that my first ball game at Denny Stadium was in 1964.
Uh-huh.
I have been following Alabama football for many years. Georgia is doing the same thing today that they did 50 years ago. And they will continue to be Georgia from now on. And I'm gonna give you an example. Alabama has always been known as a winner and a contender. And nothing says that more than like the 92 team. After a long absence from the national scene, we bring a group of kids in, and Coach Stallings puts together a team. And in 1992, the reason the 92 team is my favorite of all time is because they represent everything in the past, everything in the future about the football culture at Alabama. There's never been another team that represented that more than the 92 team. And they had everything. They had talent. They had the will. And they had all the history just kind of rolled up into that team that was represented by that team, let me say.
And nobody believed us except for
I
us.
do.
No, I said except for the Alabama. Everybody else would. That's the difference. Right now, we got no love. Everybody had to lose they wouldn't, like Alabama wins now, everybody's going to put them up there. When we were coming through, Tom, we had to prove it. Hey Tom, go ahead. Go ahead.
But the 92 team proved everything that Alabama is all about. Now, Georgia has not, and nobody else, in my estimation, has that kind of culture that was exhibited by the 92 team. And it was, like I said, it's everything future and past rolled up into one. Now, Georgia don't have that. Georgia will continue to be Georgia. Believe me. Vince Dooley was the same way as Mark Richt and Kirby Smart. All of them, they're just going to be the same, Mark. But Alabama's going to be Alabama from now on. And you can't. Do you agree with that?
We keep saying they have the potential, and you're making my point.
They've always had the potential.
That's my point, and it looks like Kirby's doing it, but until he does it, I'm not giving him that love. I got one more call I got to get to before I get to break.
Right,
but Tom,
buddy,
I agree with you, Tom. Until he does it, he's the second best coach. No knocking that.
Until they do it, as long as we've done it.
But until he does it, he cannot. I said he has not dethroned his arch nemesis, which is Nick Saban.
See you, Martin.
See you, babe. All right, Virgil, you're in. Kirby versus Smart. What you got?
Good morning, Martin.
Good morning.
All right. I think everybody is not really paying attention when you talk sometimes. I really don't understand it. You've never said that Kirby is not a good coach.
Right.
You're saying, and it goes back to the same thing we were saying at the beginning of the year when the Tua Jalen thing was going on. What does Tua bring to the table to prove that he's better than Jalen in a total package? Now, I'm going to get blasted for this, but we said for Tua to be the man, he's got to go undefeated. Just like we're saying here. Because Jalen went 2 years, lost one game each year in his career as a starter, only lost one game a year. So for Tua to be better, we say, in the record book, he's got to go undefeated. Now, has he been a better passer? Has he put up more points? Yes, he has. Not doubting that. Do I think he's going to do it? Yes, I do.
But it'll be all bells and whistles, and he'll be the greatest quarterback stat-wise. Yeah. But he won't. The heel for him is
unless he wins
the championship.
15 games.
Wow.
Is he?
Hadn't thought about that in a while.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
Stat-wise, yes, he's going to be greater. I'm not denying. I'm just saying I'm comparing the two conversations here.
Right.
What I'm saying. Now, go back to the Kirby and Rick. Kirby came in, he already had a built team. Tua came in, he had all the tools around him, just like Jalen did. Jalen had his hiccup one game each year and didn't win. Rick had a hiccup here and there in his later years, didn't win. But Kirby came in, he was stacked. He has continued to do that, and every time a new coach comes in, a lot of times you're going to get those big recruiting classes because it's the new, latest, greatest thing. Can he sustain it? Can he do what Rick didn't do? I think he can, but the proof is in the pudding. We've got to give him however many years that Rick was there, 18 years, whatever. Let's have this conversation then and see who's the better of the two. You know, I do think he has the bone and everything else. I do think he can do it. Is he ever going to take over Saban? Not till Saban decides to step back.
All right, V. I agree. I think we're saying the same thing, but I got to get out of here. And Larry Miller says Virgil.
I didn't say that, but
thanks, Virgil.
Hey, I started to call in and ask Larry, now, who kidnapped Larry on Monday? Because he actually said Jalen threw a good pass.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Hey, it's all in fun. I love you guys.
Love you, man. All right, bye. All right. Hey, normally we would have Scotty Hollins, but I've communicated to him, and I don't want to jam up him. So we're going to have Scotty Hollins in our Christian Moment of the Week. We're going to have that on tomorrow. We try to run this show wherever it goes, and sometimes the callers call it in and all of that. But we try to be flexible. So we'll go ahead and get the break here. We'll have the Johnson and Marshall Christian Moment of the Week with Scotty Hollins. Scotty, I know you're out there listening. I appreciate you being flexible. We called a little audible this morning. This conversation, I didn't expect this, but hey, one thing we got to talk about on the other side is Gus Malzahn potentially making one of the dumbest moves ever made by a coach. We'll talk about that as we wrap up this edition of the Blitz.